Today we'll be shaking it up with the multi-talented, multi-award winning, and annoyingly handsome Scott Johnson.
What? You should have said I'd have had a shave.
How are you doing? You all right?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate reaching out. It's, we said off camera, it's a funny time to be alive, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Cool. So what have you been up to over the last, 4 months?
Well, I've been pretty proactive. Obviously, we went into lockdown on, the 23rd of March, and I shot my last wedding on the 14th of March. And I've, it's been 114 days, I think, since my last wedding. So I've been trying to keep really busy, to be fair. There's a lot of stuff that I think we're all guilty of putting off, and I haven't got time for that, I haven't got time for this, I can't do that, but I've had no excuse. I've been doing a lot of little bits. I've tidied the office. I've been doing sample albums. I've been doing lots of interviews and podcasts and print judging for various associations. So I've been pretty busy.
Yeah, I mean that's really how I came across you in the first place, because I was watching some of your podcasts on the Honest Photographer Facebook page. So actually we can start talking about that page for a little bit. How did that come about?
Well, that was a good friend of mine, James Musselwhite. It was originally his safe space to have a little bit of a vent, and not vent, but just kind of his safe space online where it could be open and honest with a bunch of professionals. And it was his idea to kind of open it up and create loads of really good content during lockdown, because I think we all are aware that we are quite solitary in this job, and everyone feels like they were going through this by themselves. So he reached out to myself and a few others, Sanjay and Ross Grieve and Ellie Cassidy, just to help kind of provide and create content for photographers during this time on various different subjects. As you know, we've covered homeschooling for kids, photographing Lego, to how to deal with your accounts and deal with all that. So we've been trying to really give content. It's not so much now, but certainly the first 3 months we were giving content daily, just to try and give things stuff for people to do, really.
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of keep talking, under those sort of circumstances. That's really how, that's how this podcast came into existence in the first place as well. Because I don't know about you, but I think when lockdown first hit, like that first day, I was certainly freaking out, I think, a little bit. How did you feel like that very first day? You kind of sort of watched the Italy and Spain and the rest of the countries that had it, and you knew it was coming. It was just a question of when. So it's about preparing for it. So, when it's out of my control, I don't really worry too much about it. I just had to prepare the best way I possibly could. And when it came, we'd already adjusted. The initial impact was dealing with the brides we were supposed to be photographing within those next 4 weeks. Initially, that was quite tough. I'm not going to lie. That was exhausting, both mentally and physically, because whenever you have a phone call as a bride that's in tears because their wedding in 2 weeks has been postponed, that was difficult. And you have to kind of departmentalize it in your head. So it's just a day. It's just a bride. It's, as we said on the phone last week, it's imagine how a police officer is when they see a dead body. They're just, it's just a dead body, and they just don't think about it and just do their job. And my job was to move dates, and I just stopped thinking about it from a personal point of view. And the faster I think we got to that stage in our state, the easier it became. Yeah, I think it's good sometimes just to kind of occupy yourself at that point and just sort of look at it like what do you call those things that a horse wears? What are these called?
Blinders.
Blinders. Yeah.
Is it blinders?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, blinders. Yeah.
Yeah. Put the blinders on and just keep that straight tunnel vision and just get through it that way. That's I think that definitely. I think that's how I felt. I
have to say, I was almost in a little bit of denial when it first started happening. I think, thinking, is this isn't going to last for long? This might just be a few weeks and we'll be back to normal. Here we are 3 or 4 months later. All right, pubs and things have just opened. We'll see how that goes. But it's not back to normal yet, is it? And we won't be for months.
No. So I think a lot of the preparation time that, people spend over the first kind of 6 weeks in lockdown, that's going to start to pay off over the next 6 months or something.
Yeah,
that's really So let's go back a little bit. So how did you actually get started in photography in the first place?
It was a complete accident, if I'm honest. I was at school. I wasn't very good at English or maths. I know I've just diagnosed as dyslexic about 5 years ago, and that was never picked up when I was at school. I was just stupid when I was at school. So never did well at English or maths. And then I had to resit. And then I was at school. I was good at IT, and I was going to do a second GCSE, and the school said, no, you can't do it because it's just a given. You're going to get another good grade. We want to challenge and do something else. So the two choices were either human biology or photography. So I just kind of thought, well, the lesser of two evils, I'll do photography. And that was how I got into it. The moment I saw an image that I took, because this was back in the late 90s, so it was still wet chemistry, it was still film. And the moment that I saw a picture that I took, I developed the negative, and you see it appear in the tray, I was hooked, and that was it. It was just a magic thing. I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So how did you get from doing photography as a hobby to turning it into a full-time job? Like, what was your journey to that?
Well, I've always said that this is a hobby that got out of hand. It's still a hobby for me. If you follow my personal Instagram account, I still go out and photograph for fun. It's really good fun. I was working for a print lab in 2002. I started in 1998, left school, worked in a pro lab. So I was basically printing professional wedding pictures, portrait pictures. And then a guy came to work for the lab that just finished working on cruise ships. And he told me all these stories. And I thought, I quite fancy that, traveling the world, getting paid for it, meeting all these gorgeous women. I'm like, yeah, I was 22, single. I thought, yeah, we'll have some of that. So I applied, I got a job on a cruise ship, and then that was literally the kickstart that I had. So basically it was traveling the world, getting paid for it, taking pictures, and learning my craft. Again, it was still film. We very late into my contract went digital. We were the first ship to go digital in the fleet. So again, learned a lot about exposure digitally. And then so I came back and got a job in Jessops, got seen by a friend of mine that I'd met previous back in the lab that set his own company up and said, do you want to come and shoot some weddings? And that was it.
Cool. And then so how did you get from there to winning some multiple awards around the place?
I am a competitive bastard. I am the most competitive person in the world. I've been into sport since I was 10, so the competitive side of me has been nurtured from a very, very early age. And it was really, I thought I was pretty good, and it turns out that I wasn't. And then being told, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, is the biggest driving force for me. And to be told that my work wasn't good enough, I was like, well, I'm going to show you. And that was it. It was my competitive drive that brought me forward. So I've been very fortunate and lucky to win some big awards in my career, and I'm now in a position where I can give back. I'm now a print judge for SWPP, WPPI, and the Guild of Photographers here in the UK. So I'm now a print judge that was judging my prints 15 years ago. So I'm very lucky to be doing that.
Yeah. What did it feel like shooting your first wedding? Do you still remember that?
Yeah, I do. It was my first wedding I ever shot by myself. Was the 2nd of April 2005. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was working for somebody else, and it was good fun. I enjoyed it. The pressure was obviously there, but the pressure when it was my company, it was like I'd forgotten everything. Like someone had opened my heels, and everything that I knew about anything just vanished out of my heels, and I was very, very nervous. That was back in 2006. But you know what? It was just, we've done this it becomes muscle memory. And, every day that I go and shoot a wedding, I still get nervous about it because this is someone's special day. And, the day that I stop feeling nervous about it is the day that I'll stop doing it.
Was your first wedding on film or digital?
Film.
Ooh.
Yeah, film. So my first wedding that I shot as a second photographer was back in 1999. It was on 120 film. I shot on a Hasselblad. And I was loading backs and shooting the candid stuff on a 150 lens, 150 f4. So yeah, I shot film. I'm 40, but I was very, very early into digital. And when it turned in 2003, we jumped straight away because we knew this was going to be the future.
Yeah. Shooting a wedding on film is my ultimate fear.
Yeah.
It's good fun. It makes you think. I'm doing a talk for Fujifilm this month, and it's about the GFX system. And
that is like shooting on film, because the camera isn't as fast, it isn't as rapid as a T3 that I'm using as well. But it's like shooting film, because you have to stop and think rather than just spraying and praying and going bang, 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 and just getting everything. You have to think of it like film, because back in the day, in the 90s, you could buy 5 rolls of film for £5. Now a box of 5 rolls of port for 800 is 50 quid. And to get developed is £25 a roll. So you got to think, every time I hit that shutter, it's going to cost me £4.80. And that's the way you have to think about it, because the more precise you can get in your photography, the less crap you're going to take, the less time you'll spend editing in up here in Lightroom, and the more time you're going to spend down the pub. Now they're open again.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, I've often thought, because I'm like a really, I'm such a like child of the digital world, when it comes to photography. And although when I was a kid, I started shooting video on tape, essentially. It was sort of pre-digital age. But the thing about weddings, I think the thing that scares me is that it's the fact that you lack that immediate feedback. Like you can't just exactly look at the screen and just figure out whether your exposure was spot on or not. And it's the thing, I always think like, if somebody asks like, did you get that first kiss? And you go, I don't know. I'm not sure. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's the thing. I think that's keeping me from shooting more on film. Although, I mean, we've talked about this quite a lot. That's sort of an interesting challenge, I think, for me personally. I think for you too. Huh?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got this camera behind me here, and you've what's the camera you've got? I forget.
Yeah, I sort of acquired a family heirloom, which is an Agfa isolette. Do you remember those? Like a 1938 120 film kind of camera.
Wow.
Which is fully operational. It's fully functioning, fully operational.
And that's the thing. Back in the day, the cameras are made to last. I've got a Rodaflex that I use that I think it's 1961 or 2, I think, and it's still the sharpest camera I've got. The lens on it is razor sharp.
Yeah. So that was actually, I tell you what, that was one thing that really surprised me, because I was given that camera by my mom actually for some birthday a couple of years ago, and it used to belong to my grandma's, and she was given a camera back in 1938. Maybe 1936, when she graduated from her apprenticeship as a photographer and lab assistant, right back then.
Wow.
And I've got some prints of photos that were taken, like portrait photos that were taken of my grandma with that very camera. And they are incredible.
Oh, they are good.
Yeah.
They are razor sharp. I mean, it's just, you would never think that was even possible back then. But it's, mind blowing.
So that's something that we want to give it. I've not really used film either, and it's something that really interests me to see what you can do with it. And it's a slightly different way of thinking, as you described, Scott.
It really it's the discipline. I think the discipline of having to, like say, it's that uncertainty of, well, did I get it? I was using I still shoot film. I've got a fridge full of film. You can't see it; it's behind me. A fridge full of film. I've still got 2 Rodaflexes and a Leica M6 that I still shoot with. Not as often, because it is expensive now, but it's there if I fancy it. I've got a fellowship that I took on film. And it was because I wanted to test myself, because I'm so used to looking and chimping and look at the back of the camera and think, yep, got it, nailed it.
Yeah.
But it was that. I don't know. I quite like the risk of film as well. I quite like it.
Yeah, it's definitely risky business. Shooting film, for sure.
Film, great film.
yeah, true.
But that's as I say, it's something that really interests us, and we want to start using our film cameras ourselves and try and do something with it. Create a video with this. Create a few stills with yours, and learn the process of making photographs and film with actual film. And we haven't got around to doing it yet, but something for in a few weeks.
It's something made me think, because my daughter we're supposed to start her GCSE photography course in September, and she really has no idea what film even is. I mean, she literally had absolutely not the foggiest idea that there could be anything else other than digital media, and so I remember having a conversation with her, and I kept thinking, like, actually, you know what? I don't know that much about that. I've been a photographer for quite a long time, but really that's sort of beyond my field of expertise, altogether. So I kind of thought, you know what? That's a fun part of photography to kind of upskill on. You know, and
it's really funny because throwing back to 2002 when I was on the cruise ships and we'd just gone digital, we had the Fujifilm S2, and we had a trainee photographer that came on the ship, and we gave her the digital camera and asked her to put a roll of film in it. And she was just like, well, where does this go? And you could see her trying to put the film in the memory card slot. And it's funny how 20 years ago it was completely the other way around, where digital was the new thing and now film is the new thing almost. It's always come full circle again.
Yeah, so the one thing that freaks me out a lot, and it kind of makes me feel really, really old, is when I realized that that my kids don't even know how to use an analog phone. They literally have no idea.
They've never played Snake.
Well, obviously not. No, but it's like, you know, pick up the receiver. They don't really understand that, you know, you have to wait for the ringtone and then dial a number. Like that, the whole concept. I literally just stand there and go, what now? What's happening?
Oh, you're talking about these round ones.
Yeah, the twirly things, like baking a cake. And I show my little girl, she's 7 in a couple of weeks, and she looked at it and said, well, what's that? Like, it's what we used to make phone calls on. No, it wasn't. I'm like, yep, that's what it was like.
Yeah. I was going through I was sorting out some old drawers over the weekend. Actually, I found an old iPod Nano. Do you remember those?
Yeah, I've got an old original iPod.
Yeah. So my 9-year-old was looking at this, and you know, you have to it has this dial thing on it, and she couldn't work out how to use that at all. It was like completely, you know,
disgraceful.
No touch screen.
No,
it's not working. Anyway, so
there were simpler times, that's for sure.
Oh,
simpler
for sure,
times.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about your fellowships a little bit. I think it'd be good to explain maybe what a fellowship actually is.
So when I explain to my couples that I've got 2 fellowships, they just think I'm a hobbit and go around searching for rings. But what they don't realise is the work and dedication that goes into getting that. So basically, you can join associations. So at the minute, you've got the SWPP, the Society of Wedding and Portrait Photographers. You've got the MPA, the Master Photographers Association, and the BIPP, the British Institute of Professional Photography. That was a mouthful, blimey. And you can qualify via those bodies. So basically, there are 3 levels. You've got licentiate, associate, and fellowship. So licentiate is entry level, which is basically, can you take a nice picture? Do you know what you're doing? And can you make money from your craft? So everyone that's a full-time professional photographer should be working towards that level. Associate level is 1 up, and that's where we're looking to see style and creativity and your own inspiration coming through. So you're looking at other people's work, but it's very much, we're starting to see your style coming through. And then when you get to the fellowship level, that is, you look at my work and you know that Scott took it. That you can tell straight away that it's my work. And so I've been very fortunate to have, I've got 2 fellowships, one in wedding photography and one in documentary photography. And it's something that I've worked for. I got my licentiate in 2012 and my fellowship was given to me in 2015. So it's 3 years to get there. I'm only certainly in the BIPP. I'm only the 19th person ever since 1901 to get the wedding fellowship. So it's quite difficult because weddings, you have to take it on the wedding day. You can't go and do a post shoot or a pre-shoot or do it again. It has to be on the wedding day. So the pressure is really there. So it's quite tough to get, but I'm really proud to have it. I don't talk about it enough, but I'm dead chuffed to have it.
So when let's say as a photographer, when you decide that you want to get involved with that, do you have to start with the licentiate, or can you go straight in at a different level, or how does that work?
In the old days, you used to be able to go in straight in or whatever you wanted, but I've just recently I'm now the head of qualifications at the BIPP at the Institute, and we're getting rid of that because one thing that everyone should be doing is respecting the process, because if you're going straight into the fellowship and you get it, good luck to you, brilliant. But the whole point of the qualification process is you learn more about yourself, how to give the better finished product. And if you're jumping straight into fellowship, you're missing out on so much valuable experience, from mentors and other photographers that have trodden that same path. And I think really it's a process that, you should do properly and go from start at the bottom and work your way up. It's like, would you jump straight into a Formula 1 car? No, you wouldn't. You'd kill yourself. But you drive karts first, then you drive Formula Ford and Formula Renault, then you go to Formula 3, then you go to Formula 1. You have to respect the progression of the process.
So is is this something where you have to put a panel of images together and then that gets judged, or how does the process actually work?
So when you go for licensure, you can submit digitally. So you can put a USB together or do a Dropbox, and we can judge the prints digitally. But we do prefer prints on all levels, especially at the Institute. We prefer prints. So basically, it's a panel of 20 images, and we judge the prints. So it should sit together as 20 individual images, but look as one body of work. So every image complements the other one. Not really that strict when it comes to licensure, more strict when it comes to associate, but fellowship, it should be 20. Yeah, it should be one body of work, but each image will complement the other one.
Okay, and there's a whole lot of different sort of categories. Like you mentioned, wedding as a category. I guess documentary is another category. What other categories are there?
Oh, there are many. So, you've got portraiture, lifestyle portrait, travel, social, weddings, documentary weddings, architecture, medical, you name it. So there is, especially in the British Institute of Professional Photography, everyone sees photography as a social aspect, but a social photographer is actually only 1/3 of what we do. We do armed forces, we do medical, we do stock. So there's a lot more that's just wedding and portraits. It's just a very small fraction of what we can actually qualify you in.
So if somebody wanted to get started with that, where would they start? I mean, what's the sort of starting point? Do you have to become a member first, or how does that work?
Yeah, become a member. Speak to, go on the website and join. It's only £250 a year, which in the grand scheme of things is not a lot. With that, you get legal support, which is really important these days, I think, to have a legal body to help you. But then there are online competitions. There are local meetups once a month. Hopefully at the minute it's all on Zoom, but with a bit of luck, we can get together again quite soon. And then it's through being a member of any association that you can start to qualify with.
So how long did it take you on your journey from first starting that process to gaining your fellowship?
So I joined SWPP in 2010, and then I became a fellow with them in 2015. So that was 5 years. And then the BIPP I joined in 2012 and I got my fellowship the same year in 2015. So it's 3 years, but I was quite quick. I'm competitive. I didn't want to be the 20th person to get it. I wanted to be the 19th person to get it. I wanted to be in the teens. So I was quite forthright, and I'm going to make this happen. So I put my mind to it and got it done. No one's got a wedding fellowship since. I'm still saying 5 years. No one else has passed it in weddings. So I'm still the last person to get a fellowship in weddings. And when I got my documentary fellowship, that was taken on film. And again, I wanted to challenge myself, and I was the first person to get a fellowship on film in 16 years. So again, I was something that I was quite driven to do. I wanted to really kind of push myself. And again, as we said before, just respect the craft a little bit more rather than going out and just spraying and praying.
If you get to see these entrants, regularly now, what do you think is it that other people might be missing and lacking, and in general might need to work on a little bit more to get that fellowship? What is it that stood you slightly above these other people that enabled you to achieve that?
I think when you're going for something like fellowship, it's very much it's the attention to detail that people often overlook. So it's is the retouching properly? Is the pose correct? Is, if you're doing a pose, like my fellowship was in traditional wedding photography, so the posing has to be nailed. If you're doing documentary, then there's no posing. But its print quality is massive, and we found panels on poor prints because they've not done the test prints, have used the wrong paper, and it's that type of thing that is going to help elevate you to the fellowship. It's not just about the images; it's an overall collection of your supporting evidence, your how you dress. You don't put a suit on, but you want to look the part. Turn up in a pair of shorts and a scrubby t-shirt. It's not going to look. It has to kind of all look the same. But certainly, it's attention to detail, I would say, is the biggest hurdle when it comes to going for fellowship.
What's the most popular category, just generally?
I would say at the minute probably portraits. Newborn is probably the most entered across all levels. I mean, fellowship, we do that doesn't happen very often, but certainly for licentiate and associate, I would say portraits and newborns are definitely up there at the minute.
How about corporate headshots? Is that a category?
That would be a category that would go into commercial. That would go into commercial category. So you become a licentiate in commercial photography. So by all means, stick them in.
All right, cool, awesome. All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about your documentary fellowship, because you said you took that on film. So just tell us a little bit about that.
So, yeah, I wanted to, because I've always called myself a photographer that shoots weddings, not a wedding photographer. I enjoy taking pictures of everything. So when I got my fellowship in weddings, I wasn't happy with just one. Again, competitive. My friend of mine got 2, so I wanted to get 2. I wanted to test myself in a subject that wasn't what I shoot, so I could say that I'm not just a one-trick pony. So we'd arranged to go to Poland for our anniversary, and I was shooting very much into shooting film for personally back in 2017. And yeah, we went to the Auschwitz camp, and again, it wasn't meant to be. It was just, I took some pictures on my film camera, got the scans back, got the negs back, and kind of thought, oh, you know, I might have a panel of images here, and I kind of put them all together. And the more I looked at it, I thought I might have another fellowship here. And then I put it in, and it was awarded a fellowship. So I was very shocked that it was an accident. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I'm glad it did.
Awesome. Do you develop your prints yourself, or do you send them off, or how does that process work?
No, I sent them off. Because I haven't developed my negatives for 25 years, so I didn't want to, mess them up. I knew I didn't want to, I wanted to send it done properly. There was a company here. They've now moved to Canada. They're called Canadian Film Lab. They did all my processing, and ironically, you have to scan the negatives in to get a JPEG. So you still have to digitize the process in some respect to get the prints back. But even when you get the scans back and you get the prints back, you can still tell it's on film because the way they've been developed, the way you've been taking it. Those of you that have shot film that know that you can push and pull negatives, and you push to pull the chemistry to give it more punch or more contrast. So we did some of that in the post-production and the processing. So it was all really thought out, and it wasn't just a shoot some negs and put them in. We had to think about how I'm going to shoot the negatives. If I'm going to push the exposure, do I push the film, given the conditions it was all in? So again, it was a really kind of thought out process.
So I think that's a really interesting thing to get into. If you're used to, shooting digitally, for the most part.
I think definitely. I think what probably turns most people off is the expense of film and printing film. Scott, I mean, you mentioned that you failed. Some people have not got their fellowship because of the quality of their prints and haven't done test prints. Have you got any advice for people that might help them improve that process for them? It's certainly something I'd be interested in, because I'd want to maximize. I don't want to be spending a fortune on test prints. Okay, it's still not quite right. Can you have conversations with the lab in advance to say, hey, this is kind of what I'm going for here? This is what would you say?
So one of the things that we offer with the SWPP and the BIPP is we offer a mentor service. So basically, if you become a member, then if you want to go through down the route of qualification, then you will be assigned a mentor to just kind of help you along. And it's with those people that we have conversations. I've been doing mentoring all through lockdown with people through both associations, where they send me their work and they'll say, I'm thinking about qualifying in September or in January. And we have a chat. As a print judge, I know what judges are looking for. Having been through the process myself, I can give first-hand experience of what it's like and how to best help. So it's really about saying, okay, guys, what you want to do is give me some work, and we'll have a Zoom chat like this, and we'll go through the prints and say, this is good, maybe change that, maybe change your editing style here, or maybe do this and just tweak some things. And eventually we start with this amount of work, and we bring it down to a submission level, and then you can submit and go from there. So mentoring is, I didn't get any help for licensure. I knew stuff was all right. Then associate, I got a little bit of help, but for fellowship, I got a lot of help and a lot of guidance about what to do and what not to do.
Cool. Fantastic. So you're also a Fujifilm ambassador. How did that relationship come together? Like, how did that happen?
A lot of nagging on my part, if I'm honest. It was I made the change to Fujifilm from Nikon back in 2016, and it was at the time where I knew I wanted more. I wasn't content. I was working with Graphistudio and Fundy software, but I wanted to get involved with the camera brand. So I just emailed them and said, hey, hi, how you doing? And sent them some work. We started a conversation off. That took a year of just doing it. Sending some that they were sharing some of my work on their social media channels. They liked what I was doing because they didn't have a traditional wedding photographer on their ambassador program, which really helped my stock. Again, it's making conversation. And a lot of people say, well, how do you do it? I want to be an ambassador. And if you took a new partner out, you want to date first. You want to go out for dinner. You want to see what each other's like. You don't get married straight away. You want to, have to enjoy the process of a couple, 3 years. And then 2 years afterwards, they liked what I did. They were launching the XH1, and they said to me, can you come to Portugal and launch the XH1? We're doing a workshop for the press. We've got this venue. We think it's going to suit your style perfectly, given what we want to try and achieve. And so my style and their venue that they'd chosen, they sought me out and said, Scott will be perfect for this location. I did the launch, I did the workshop, and then they said afterwards, we'd like to have you come on board and be an ambassador. And that was how it really was. It was just being nice, sending them some work, and opening a conversation, not going, hey, I've got a camera, make me an ambassador, because they hate that. Every camera company will just hate that.
Sure,
it's about, doing the right thing and dating first. You have to date first.
Cool. And you've got some webinars coming up with Fujifilm, is that right?
Yeah. So on the 16th of July, on the Fujifilm UK Facebook group, I'm doing a webinar on the GFX system and how it works at weddings, and how I find it is the perfect wedding camera, because people think it's too slow. It's not. It's perfect, and I'm going to give a webinar for an hour and a bit of a Q&A afterwards about how and why I think it's the best camera for weddings.
Cool. Is that a free to attend webinar?
It's all free. It's all through the Facebook page. So basically, come on at 7 o'clock on the 16th of July on the Fujifilm UK Facebook page, and you'll see this face sitting right here doing a webinar on the GFX.
I think you'll definitely see me there, because I've been eyeing up the GFX 50, I think.
It's good. I had the 100 for a week last summer when it came out. Sweet. And I shot the first ever wedding on the GFX 100 in the UK, and it's just really good. It's a really good camera.
Yeah. It's I think I'm sort of open-minded to other camera systems. With the effects of the whole lockdown thing, I'm sort of financially, what's the word, careful at this point.
Cautious. I think financially cautious.
Cautious, that's the word. Yeah. But it's definitely something in the back of my mind. It might be something that's coming up.
Well, Fujifilm did great. If you go to hireacamera.com, you can hire Fujifilm equipment for a week, 10 days. You can actually, it's not that much money. You have to put a deposit down. Yeah. But you can hire an XT3 for £100 a week just to try it, and just to see if you like it. And that's a really good way of putting your foot in the water and seeing if the system's actually for you or not, and not just you but anybody.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that's kind of, I think that's how my mind's been working over the last sort of year or two, is I've sort of been gravitating towards Fuji weirdly. But yeah, we'll check that out.
Sure.
So Scott, tell us a little bit about your wedding business. You run a company called The Edge Photography, and obviously you've been in the wedding business for a long time. How did things go before the whole lockdown shebang?
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've been in business since 2006. So we survived the recession of 2008, the fallout of that for 2 years afterwards, with all the, it wasn't much fun, but we survived it.
How did that affect you, by
and
the
now
way?
we're dealing with this. So, it's been really good. We've got two photographers. You've had Abel that's been on the podcast. He's been shooting for me for a couple of years now. He's been, we sub it out to him to run alongside his business. Karen's on board, and she does a lot of the second shooting, but does the smaller weddings as well. And there's me. So up until March, it was brilliant. We were booking as a company 80 weddings a year. So we were doing really, really well. And then wallop, we got hit with COVID. And then literally, imagine you have a pyramid of cards, and we just got to the top, and then someone went, and it just all scattered, and it was done, and then the diary just empties. So it's been challenging moving since March, but up until March, we've been very lucky with the business and how it's been going.
Yeah. So what goes through your head when you're faced with your whole business going from 100 miles an hour to zero, like literally in a day?
It's just adjusting, I think. I mean, again, as we said earlier, I think, I saw it coming. When you look at Italy and China and the rest of Europe, we knew lockdown was coming, and it's just preparing for it. But then keeping busy. So I've been saying on other webinars that I've been doing that we're going to be here long after we're out of this situation, whether it be 5-10 years, and even next year, we're going to be doing weddings again. And if you think that the world's going to stop, then it will. You have to focus on coming out of it. And, character is built in the dark. And, it's been
pretty dark for a lot of us in this industry the last 3 or 4 months. And if we can survive this now and be really good now, just imagine how good we're going to be when we're back up and running again. So it's just about preparing and hitting the ground running. So when we get to, let's be honest, it's going to be January or February before we're back to anywhere near normal again, that we come out the gate running, and we're not just going to limp out. No, we're never, ever, ever going to get this time back. And we have to make sure we use it to our advantage. Get the website up to date, get your pricing up to date, do new sample albums, do new brochures, do everything, tidy the office, have a haircut, anything, just get stuff done, because we all know if anyone's been postponing weddings like I have, come next year, we're not going to have any time for anything apart from shooting, eating, sleeping, and I'm not going to say the other word, but it's just going to be. It's just gonna...
So you mentioned pricing. That's actually an interesting thing, because I get asked this literally all the time. Do you think there's going to be what do you think is going to be the impact on pricing coming out of this whole coronavirus thing? Do you think it's going to be any impact, or?
Yeah, I think people are going to be wanting after a discount. I think people are going to assume that we're all struggling and assume that we're going to be desperate for work, and that might be true. I know people that will discount anyway. I'm never a big fan of discounting. I'll always add value to the coverage rather than discount the price. One of my early bosses, he always used to say to the couples that ask for discount, they said, yep, I would quite happily, right now, I'll give you 20% off, but I'm only going to give you 80% of my service. So I'd rather give you 100% service you pay full price for, and you'll get a better result at the end of it. And they go, okay, when you put it like that, and that's quite a, brash approach, I think. So I would rather include maybe an engagement session or extra spreads or give a parents album rather than discount, because I think if we discount and we're all just fighting to discount, it's just going to bring the whole industry down. I think maybe add a smaller coverage, maybe add a cheaper coverage, but don't discount what you want to sell, because you're going out doing the same work that you were 2 years ago, working your ass off for half the money, for example. And, that's just not sensible.
Cool. You also mentioned that you started your business in 2006. You've been through the financial crisis in 2008. Do you think you can take that experience from back then and apply that to what's happening right now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I'd have thought that was, looking back now, that was a walk in the park compared to this, right? That was just, that was crazy. But yeah, looking back now, we made adjustments to our coverages and pricing strategies back then. We brought in smaller coverages, and then slowly you kind of build it up. But the minute you start taking, I'll give you half price off if you book me now, it's just a race to the bottom, and there's no winners in that race. It's not good fun. We have to be strong and true to our pricing, and adapt to the situation that we're in. Don't change, but adapt.
So when do you think? Let's cut this here. I'll just try to rephrase that question. Do you think when weddings start up again, do you think they're going to be starting up in like smaller groups, or do you think we're going to be back to normal anytime soon, or? What's your gist on that?
I think that weddings will start again this year. We've already got weddings that have taken place now. Of recording, we're July 6th, so weddings are allowed legally again to happen now with 30 people. I've got a wedding in a couple of weeks with 25 people, so weddings are taking place. I think it's going to be a slow release. So I'd like to think by the end of the year, it might go from a 30 to 60. Then by next year, back to normal again. So it's going to be slow and steady. It's going to be a natural climb up the hill, but we'll get there. It's just going to be, we just have to ride it out. Again, it's no one's fault that we're in this industry, that we're in this problem at the minute. Sure. People like to like it's their fault or your fault, or it's no one's fault. We're in this together. And I think it's going to happen, and we just have to be ready for it when it does.
I guess I think with weddings, it's a thing, people are still going to get married. I'm guessing, unless they're split up in the meantime, but normally. So you think that weddings will be postponed. So you're really be facing almost like double the workload next year. So how do you prepare for that?
I don't know. I've always said that when I'm busy, this is the year that I outsource my editing. Yeah. Next year, I will outsource editing. Purely because in April next year already, I've got 8 weddings in 11 days. So as a company, we have 11 in 9 days with Abs and Karen out. So it's just going to be, impossible to edit those weddings. So we will outsource. Yeah. I've got a couple of companies that already now I'm doing tests and trials with to see if they can match my editing style. So again, we're not
putting our foot in the water when we're busy. I'm using the time that I've got now to find my editor for when I do get busy next year. So yeah, we'll be outsourcing the Cole and the initial edit, and then everything else will be back here, because as you know, editing takes up as much time as shooting the job in itself.
For sure.
So yeah, that'll be going out next year for sure.
Oh, cool. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, utilizing the time now to kind of prepare for, what's to come, because if you're faced with that next summer, then you've got no chance in hell to win. I think.
No, and I'll be even more bald and grey next summer if I do my own editing as well. So,
so have you managed to get a little bit more time, like with family and stuff, over the past 3 months, or?
Yeah, it's been lovely. I mean, I say my little one, she's 7 in a couple of weeks, and I would have been teaching at Graphistudio at their facility in Italy in April. I should have been photographing a wedding in Santorini in June. I should have been at residency in the north in Newcastle. I should have been up in the northeast teaching up there, and I haven't been. I haven't been shooting weddings, and the weather's been. It's been pretty good, to be fair. It's been nice to spend time with the family and do some bits. Obviously, we've had up and downs. We've been under each other's feet for the last 14, 15 weeks, so it's been difficult. But overall, it's been lovely to spend time at home and have a summer at home and enjoy it. Obviously, there's the stressful side of it, of trying to keep the business running and make sure everyone's happy with the weddings and stuff like that. But as a whole, I've quite enjoyed lockdown, to be fair.
Yeah, I feel the same thing. I mean, I have a 9-year-old, she just turned 9. And it's it's a similar thing. I typically shoot a lot of conferences and stuff, so I'm away quite a bit. But obviously that hasn't been happening, and a chance to spend a lot more time at home. And I've actually really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it to the point where I'm thinking I might actually kind of redesign my business model, from here on out, because I've really enjoyed being at home more. And
well, this is the thing. I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but I've been trying to take 50% payments where possible to help the revenue. And one thing it's taught me that I can run on half the money, so therefore technically I can run on half the weddings. So it's made me reevaluate what I'm doing and how busy I am to think, what, do I want to be this busy ever again? And the answer is next year I'm going to have to be, because we've got dates to fulfill. But in 2022. No way am I as busy as I've been before. No way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it was a great chance to reevaluate things, in this time.
So next up, it would be great if we could have a look through our photo competition that we've been running, Scott, and get your view on a couple of our kind of finalists, shall we say. So a couple of weeks ago, we set our listeners and viewers the challenge of taking a photo, but specifically taking a photo of a pet or an animal, and keep it within that category. We didn't give any other kind of stipulations as such, just that general area. We were massively surprised by the number of entries that we had. We were inundated, really.
I don't know what we were expecting. I was expecting like one photo. Yeah, maybe two.
And I'd be one of those.
But surprisingly, we had quite a number of entrants. Really,
we had a load come through an email, a load on the Facebook group as well, which is fantastic. And so we've gone through those already, Scott, and we've whittled those down to 2 photos. And if you don't mind, we'd really like you to choose the winner and give us a bit of
no pressure.
Wonderful. So first up, we've got a picture from Brian. And, well, let's let you describe the photo. It should be on our screens now.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the print from image from Brian here now. It's a really nicely captured image of a chimpanzee by the looks of it. You can only assume it's in a zoo, because you get that close in the wild. I think you're on, but no, it's a lovely capture. From looking at this, I think it's an iPhone picture that's taken on portrait mode, given how black the background is. Having said that, I love the fact that the catch lights are in the eyes, and you got almost like this little inquisitive look on the chimpanzee as well. It's nicely framed. It's a really, really good capture. I quite like this one a lot. It's a bit more contrast, a bit more black and white. I think would have really helped bring out those dark bits a bit more, and a bit sharpening here. But I think overall it's a really nice capture.
That's fine. What did you think of that shot, Kay?
I quite like it. I like the way the light falls off.
Yeah.
I would say maybe I'm sort of borderline as to whether I think that the highlights are a little too bright, maybe.
Possibly.
But I agree with Scott in that it's sort of somewhere between. It's not quite black and white, but So I like it though. It's a really sort of mesmerizing shot.
Well, that's kind of the word that sprung to my mind as well. Taking the technical kind of aspect out of it for a second. The as a shot to look at, you almost wonder what that chimpanzee is actually thinking, and that's what I particularly like about this shot. Yeah, wicked, good job, Brian.
Excellent. Well, then next up we had a shot by Lloyd.
This has got good narrative, this image. It popped up on my inbox a minute ago, and straight away, it's a loyal dog right there, no matter what. There's nothing, there's unrequited love the dog gives. Is no matter how bad a day you're having, the dog's going to be there no matter what. Off the lead, looking up, obviously the owners, you should never assume when you're print judging, but you can only assume that it's maybe eating a sandwich or it's eating something. The dog's waiting for its scrap to hit the floor. I like the storytelling behind this. I think the crop is very good. It's a little bit underexposed, a bit more boost lift in the exposure and the contrast I think would help. But overall, I think the narrative here is very, very nice indeed.
Yeah, the narrative is, I find that really interesting because, we're just about to get a dog, as you know, in about...
Sorry, I've not heard about that.
Yeah, in about 5 days' time. And so, I can only look at this image and think, I hope I can train our dog like that.
Yeah.
But it's one of these. Maybe I'm thinking it's the dog's pose is really interesting. I feel sort of the shadows are maybe a little bit dark on the legs, so it's losing a little bit of detail there. And it's maybe a bit under, but other than that, I really love that photo for its context and its sort of spontaneous vibe.
It looks like one of those Lipizzaner horses in Portugal where it's all kind of trotting around and stuff. It's a good. It's not often you see a pet portrait as emotive as this, but I like it. It's a nice. It's a good capture.
Has he caught that? Was that the third paw off the ground there, or is that just touching the ground?
That's off the ground, I think.
It is off the ground as well, isn't
it?
The
front two are off. Yeah.
So you had less than a millisecond to capture that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of those really lucky, almost like street photo type of shots, but it's really, really very well captured.
Yeah.
So so we're going to decide who the winner is. Obviously, these two images were sort of the final crop. So we picked these two out of the whole bunch that we got sent, and there were some really funny photos amongst.
There were
the ones we got.
There's one that stood out of a horse that looked like it was laughing. It's that kind of a shot that stood out as quite a funny photo for me.
Yeah, there were a whole lot of really interesting shots. But these two, so Brian's chimpanzee, which is like a really moody portrait of a chimpanzee. And Lloyd's, doggy street photo. Those were really the two that,
for sure,
I felt like were the most striking ones.
Yeah.
So we have to decide who the winner is. What do you think, Scott? What's your take on this?
If it was down to a straight 1-2, I think Brian's image of the chimpanzee just nicks it. I think it's just about those eyes. It's you can look deep into it. The expression the chimpanzee has. You're quite right. I think that maybe tone down the highlights on the knee and just on the right hand side of the image would have helped elevate this even more. But I think overall this is a really, really striking capture.
Yeah, it's the eyes, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
always in the eyes.
It's always in the eyes.
Yeah, and I like the way that the top of the eyes are sort of falling back into shadow, under that brow, but there's just enough light to...
I'd like to see it again in black and white and a bit more contrast, personally.
Yeah.
So if you are watching Brian, send us another image, a bit more boost of contrast in black and white. I think this will really, really go up another level as well.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to talk to Brian directly, because we'll have the winner of this competition on the show next week, so we can talk to Brian directly. So, yeah, well done. Excellent effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations, Brian.
Right, I think that's it for today. That's all we've got time for. Thank you very much, Scott, for coming on the show. It was extremely informative to talk to you, and of course, it was a hell of a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed it.
It was really good fun. Thanks for having me on, guys. And anything else you need from me moving forwards, just give me a shout.
Cool. And obviously, you'll find all of Scott details and a link to his website and everything in the description or in the show comments. So without further ado, we'll see you back in a week's time. As always, every Thursday. See you there.